Alright, so check this guy out. We're doing the bear again from our last video. I said it'd look good in walnut, and so we are attempting that. I was going to make him like shorter. I was going to do him upside down because I got these really long pieces of walnut off eBay, and I don't have a saw at the moment. So I was going to do his ears up here, because that would be easier than doing a flat spot with just it's almost impossible with just a knife. And then so at some point I was like, you know what, I could have him standing on something, and so I'm going to attempt to do, first of all, I kind of messed up with that because I already did these angles here going in, doing a ball and cage, so I have to pick, you want to leave your corners on a ball and cage, so I have to pick that shortest spot, so it could be real small. And I think I'm going to do a spiral, or maybe a ball that he's standing on outside of the cage. And I think it's going to make a nice piece. Again, I mean, the walnut just looks so much nicer, even without a finish, than basswood. Depending on what you're doing. With a piece that doesn't have a lot of detail and stuff, it's real nice. Alright, we'll see how it goes. Alright, quick check-in. This is where we are. Just a little bit more. And I really like his legs more. His body in general. The wood this is thicker than the this is our favorite, but you can see the size difference, and I kind of did them almost the same height, and it worked out a lot better. It looks like much more like a bear. Arms are a little bit, they should have been more rounded. I'm going to work on that, but they should have had more space, and I might kind of bring them all back in so they can do that. But look how much better the legs have been working out. Some of that also is because there's going to be wood underneath, like that you can have them thin. They don't have to be flat. It's kind of a bit better shape. So this wood is a lot harder than basswood. It's classified as a medium wood. It's kind of medium hard. Been hurting my hands because I was going too fast. I'm a bit of an impatient carver, which works well for YouTube, but when I first got to this, I was just like upset at how long it was taking to remove the wood, and I was hurting my hands because I was pressing way too hard. And you just got to slow down a little bit, and soon it seems just as nice and easy to cut, and a little bit more controlled. Although walnut has a lot of relatively linear strength, like up and down, and what that means when you're carving is that tear outs that make a split, and a big chunk comes off, that happens even easier than with basswood. The beauty of basswood is that its matrix of kind of going in both ways. The basswood's almost the same in how much pressure it takes to cut the wood, and then where a tear out happens. Basswood, when you go against the grain, I mean, doing the top of his head was just it's just pretty hard. Again, you change your cuts and your expectations. Why am I not getting focused? There we go. And the noises aren't quite as exciting. Oof. And a lot of that, which is the knife not being happy. So you gotta, you just gotta work with it a little more. And it's more satisfying. I mean, it's just too slow for a video. But I guess we're doing one, so. I mean the blow-by-blows. Alright, we'll see in a little bit, people. Okay. Another thing that I had to do, partly because of the size, but also because it's so hard, was go to a larger knife, use a Mora. These are really cheap. They work well. And they have a curved tip on the end, so you can kind of get in. This is where curved blades, an upswept blade, really helps. Is that this is called a scallop cut, and they can do that because they're not when it's a flat line, it's all set there, and when it's curved, it makes a curved cut when it's turned, basically. So yeah, that was really important. Oh, see there, it's starting to rip out. This is happening on the back, it's just the grain of the wood. So it's a little confusing, even though it's ramped the other direction. Going with the grain is sometimes more confusing. And you need to watch that. Yeah, this is also very, very dense wood. This was, I think, the softest piece. But you can just think the rings are still very close. But yeah, good stuff. Okay, so we're gonna make a space for. It's gonna have to be way lower than I thought. This is like curved right here, but we'll bring it in tiny a little bit. So we're gonna make a notch here. So we don't forget, and we can kind of figure out what we're gonna do on top of that. You saw in that stop cut that big chunk came out. Again, that's the walnut. Because of its relative linear strength, it will pull up on the grain as opposed to, I don't know, it's parallel grain. If you guys haven't, I don't know if I have a ball and cage video, and this one's going to be a little tough because it's very short for its size. You make a ball and cage. I'll go over it on paper and put a link for the video. But at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what's going to happen above. This is what's nice about these big knives, is you can get across there without having to use a chisel and gouges. And that's what I kind of got this size for. I got some basswood this size as well. Because it's nice to work on bigger pieces sometimes. And this gives you a bigger feel without being too wide. If this was, 4 inches, 5 inches square, we wouldn't be able to do much with a knife. It is still a little bit sketchy, but it'll get a straight line. Rock it back and forth a little bit, because this is a very large cut. About as big of a stop cut as you'll ever make. Oops. And a bit dangerous too, I must say. So yeah, I think there's enough to do, have him standing on a ball and then have a ball and cage. I was thinking about doing a spiral, kind of the whole thing, doing a base and then having a spiral upwards, but I thought it would get too muddy. The ball and cage, if I had planned this out, if it started up here, it would have been just a beautiful project. But because it got rounded, yeah, I don't know, it just would have been awesome. And if you wanted to do this again, you could do your bear in the middle and make it into a candlestick, do a little thing on his head, be able to drill a hole there. That would be also a useful project. Do 2 of those, because that's how you get and then it looks even more like a substantial piece. If you do bookends or 2 candlesticks, and you're still whittling, you're still in the realm of whittling, and you can have a very serious looking wood carving. Getting in the realm of sculpting, wood sculpture. Yeah, I think we're just gonna make a ball. And if it seems like I'm gonna fail at the cage, I'm gonna make another one and then make a base. That's what's gonna happen. I don't know if I've taken this wood down too much to get a good ball out of it. This is what happens when you don't plan, people. Whatever, it's more exciting. go over the concept of getting a good looking ball slash sphere out of a cube, because it's kind of set up already, but we'll look at it on it. I'll draw it out on 2 dimensions. What you really want to watch is, at first you watch, the center of it, and you don't want to bring that in or everything's going to come in, the ball's got to get smaller. We know that top and bottom, at least, a third of the way down, are going to go in real deep, right? That's safe. Then we're going to worry about rounding it, making it look like a ball. More controlled cuts right here so we don't chop into the piece. Oops, that was a little dangerously high. Watch me just completely screw this piece up. It happens. This is when passive least resistance doesn't really happen, because we're going at it full bore. After it starts to round, then you go to the corners and work your way in. But when you got a big flat distance to cover, that's all there is to do. Okay, so we're pretty much making stop cuts all along the bottom to start this out, because they're pretty much there on the top already. After you get closer, you start to look at it and be like, okay, this side isn't that. Oh, we got a low battery. Still shooting? Yes. You can look at it and say, well, this side, this is the dangerous part we're worried about. See this angle right here? That goes down to past halfway, and it's way. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be a rock, maybe it doesn't have to be a perfect sphere. Shows, excuse my language. And his legs would have to be closer together. I think we're gonna leave it like a rock. We'll see. Alright, I'm gonna save on the space here. Okay, this is where we are. Got the ball out a little more. I realized a significant problem. One is that the main one, this wasn't completely square as far as it's like the dimensions on the bottom. I'd run into it earlier because the left side of the bear was like way shorter than the right side, and I tried to correct it a little bit, and then I just completely forgot about it. And then when I went to the balls and the idea, so I told you I was going to talk about what. First of all, ball and cage, and also just making a circle and then sphere out of a square. What they taught us in shop class was that, and hopefully this is measured out, hopefully your piece is already square. You want to check it with a ruler. The idea was that, the corners are connected. This is horrible. The point is when you have the square, you have these high points. That's what I was talking about, what you want to leave, right? The high points of the sphere, because we know it's not going to go in, or else the whole thing has to get smaller. This ramp to the top part needs to be a consistent curve. If it goes in too much, when this one meets it, then you don't have a ball, right? And so the way you think about it, and also goes too much, you also have a strange, I don't know what the geometrical name is for it. The point is, though, is that by the time it gets to this, and whenever you're making a spoon or something and you're trying to get the inside of the bowl of the spoon, you want to get that smooth, you have to think about the points when they meet up. They have to be going pretty much along that line, right? So they need to be ramping out of that curve. And it's basically, it's more than you think it would. It's pretty much a square that's had the corner round off to get to a sphere. So when you're doing, okay, so if you have a rectangle, you know, and you're trying to get one out of there, it's obviously it's going to be an oval. And then you're going to be a mess because you can't just cut off part of it and go in there because you've already brought this angle in past your middle mark where it should have been. The whole thing has to shrink and it's going to be ending up like this size. That's what I'm running into here. When you do a ball and cage, and we're not even going to do this project, I don't think, anymore. I'm going to abandon it because it's too much contrast, and especially because I can't make this ball completely round. The other issue is his anatomy would have to change to actually be on a ball, right? Because his feet, there's like on a ball, I assume that they were actually inflatable. I don't know if bears were ever on a freaking ball, dude. Maybe it's just in Dumbo or something. But his feet would have to be really close together, and then I would have to show some inflation. I don't know. It was gonna be weird. But this is what, if this sphere isn't perfect, it would have contrasted another sphere underneath it. So I'm still at a loss. We'll see. All right. So when you do your ball and cage, which is a rectangle, you don't have to do a complete rectangle, but it's easier. You're doing this. You're following the same thing with this idea of making, you know, your ramps that meet inside of your square, and you basically keep turning it as you're going in. And again, you leave these high points are real important to leave in the beginning, and you just slowly take off the corners. And of course, you'll be able to turn it, you know, and keep looking at it at different angles and be like, yeah, that's not really you know, that right there is not really, you know, it needs to come in more. It needs to be more rounded. As you look at it and compare the sides, just do a little bit at a time. You can't do a ball that is the size of the inside square. Okay, it'll come out. It needs to be bigger. It needs to go out to like right there and right there. And this is why this is a whittler's puzzle. Is that you have to carve inside what it looks like from the top, I guess. The inside joint. Well, I mean, it's going to go over these boundaries too. The way that it happens is because it's made in the center. This is why it kind of needs to be a square, I mean a rectangle. It needs to be top up here and bottom. It doesn't need to be that much, but it needs to be like at least to there. It's that basically in between, because, okay, let's go back to this top one. This isn't here, this wood isn't here in the middle of the piece, right? It's just, we actually have in the middle of the piece, we only have wood right here. And you can see that's where there's no ball. It only goes in between these bars on the cage. It's tricky. It's really fun and satisfying though. I think I maybe have a video on, so old I can't remember. We're gonna figure something out for this. I'm not sure what it's gonna be. Alright, I'll talk to you guys soon. A little bit further along, we've gotten this ball pretty much looking like a ball. Yeah, it's not going to get to be a circle, for reasons I was talking about. And again, I think this would contrast too much doing a ball and cage. Good thing I talked about it so much. What I'm going to do, because I do like the contrast of the square part with the rest of this, but it's a little far too much of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it off about right. I'm going to leave it at base, or about right here. And then I'm going to taper in a spiral. Okay, it's not going to be a hollow spiral like you guys have seen in one of the videos. It's just going to be a nice thick spiral that flanges out. So first I'm going to take down the corners, and I want to measure pretty close where that base is going to be so that it's not off on the other sides. Don't go past it. It was maybe a little bit too low, speaking of. No, it looks alright. That one's a little high. It's good. going to try not to. Put a bunch of stab wounds in myself, as you can see some blood there. I maybe did that earlier. But also in that wood up there. I'm going to control those cuts. And in this case, yeah, it's a curved brush. Okay. So, kind of done with the ball. I did decide to go with a spiral or helix. And I want to be careful with how it attaches to the ball because we can't just have it disappear or quite blend into it. I'm thinking I'm going to do a 3-strand helix, just in case it is hollow, or I'm going to get close to being hollow so it looks nice. And you can see I started this one already, and if I was going to do, I mean, I don't measure it. Oops, was I pointing at the camera? I don't measure them. If we're only going to do 2, you're going to go to the other side. Basically, I want to go by thickness, right? So I'm like, okay, the other one, I want the other one to be here. And so I start that line, and this really large knife helps. And then follow down. It's getting a little bit close, so I'm going to go up a little bit higher on it. It's fine to make a few lines because we're going to dig all this wood out. Straight over here. I think this light blue, I was complaining about being too bright earlier, now I think it's too dull. Oh yeah, okay. Well. Anyway, yeah, you make that line, and then you start making, oops, not those cuts. You start making stop cuts all around it, yeah. Make little ones at first. Like this design, these little twists have been popular in architecture in old days and on furniture. It's something you can get look really nice and not use machinery. I've seen it on a lot of old shows, and there'll be bedposts, really big ones. But they usually don't make those hollow. What I mean by hollow, if you haven't seen my other video, is that this could just be a twist, right? Like this could be the design here, but you can make them, if you follow it and make them into complete cylinders, there'll be space between them and in the middle, and that's what I'm talking about. But of course you can make it look nice with hardly anything. This may have been my first wood carving project, kind of. I really started wood carving when I was, I started to crochet, and wanted to make my own crochet needles. So I did that, and then it was fun, so I made a few more, and then I started being like, oh, well, I could decorate the back end, and I believe the first decoration I did was a little twist on the end. The twist has been good to me. Deepwood sells some really big knives that I could be doing this with. I had some. They're awesome. I don't have it with me now. I just have the smaller one you saw earlier. We want to get that like right there. And I think that we're not going to detail once it meets here, because it also has to meet there, and we want it to blend a little bit. Hitting the base this. Happy with it so far. So we're gonna have a oh, we may be screwed up. Yeah, this one's gonna be thinner than the other one. So, gee, we could not put it in there. No, not really. Alright, and I was so confident a few seconds ago. This is why I shouldn't have dug these so deep, because I could have moved them over if they were just lines. It wouldn't have been an issue. Or maybe measured something. Measuring 3 strands of a helix is a little bit complicated. Especially because it's tapered, I guess you would call it. It's if we don't watch ourselves, it may look like poo. Oh no, it's gonna be a bear. Ball on poo. Great job. I should do, dude, I'd get so many views if I did a poo carving. Gimmicks. I think I'm gonna do it. Watch, just watch. Problem is I need walnut. Why would it be that size? I wonder if there's a better poo colored wood. So, okay, it's not that bad. The strand size difference. Yeah, I want to do 3 so it'd be stronger, but also so it'd look a little more like a. Oh, it looks like poo. Now that I said it, it would have been if I'd worked on it. We could be standing on a big mound of it. Y'all, this is for families, okay? I don't know which of it is. God, if I had, I'm gonna do a whole other video. I mean, a whole other channel. I have an alter ego. And act like there's something wrong with me than there already is. And only do carvings of poo. I could probably get on the news. Yeah, well, the internet is crazy. Yeah, like 137 videos. I've been on myself too much, y'all. That's what happens with COVIDs. If you guys are all at home, hope you've picked up a hobby. Got to work on your mental health, and don't forget to take a shower. So you can, even after you carve these a little bit, you can move them over because they're going to go deeper, right? You can see I'm going up on this one, taking some big chunks out because I can move it. I don't know if I want to, actually. No. That line can still be moved. Just barely kind of inch it over as you're defining them, because now it looks way bigger. The lines aren't like, obviously they're not straight, but they're not consistent. So they change as the thing goes around, and so some parts look more consistent than others. See, because the other one does look really fat up there, and then it gets thinner over on this side. Man, the corners of this wood are really sharp, like down here. When you press into them with your hands, no me gusta. Like I we're okay. There might be some stains showing up. Yep. Damn it, we can't publish that online. Okay. What are we talking about? Scandinavian knives. There's some other brands that do, and like all their knives are swept, and they're really thick. Even the short ones are like, they look like that. Oh, it's like getting everywhere. This is a mess. Y'all can't see it, right? No, okay, good. Texas for too long. Speaking of your environment having an effect, saying y'all again. I grew up somewhat in Texas, and I moved away. Oh, it's gotten bad. Oh, shit. Alright, I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Now, this is a good story. We're sticking with this. I moved to New Mexico. Oh, this is like a... She's gonna have a rated R. Am I bleeding from somewhere else? No. Okay. It's not worth the story. I moved from Texas. I went to New Mexico when I was like 12, which is a time when people... Oh, Jesus. When people... you get a lot of crap at school, you know, and you don't really have a huge Texas accent. I mean, we live in whatever the year is, and you know, you come from a big city, you sound like a regular person, but you pick up, you know, you say y'all, and boy, I had to drop that real quick. Me and my sister both, middle school, high school. But then, yeah, I guess I started again after I went back. I think I just realized that. I stayed there for a few years for cooling off after New York. This is disgusting. I have to keep carving to get this off of here. If y'all are wondering, you don't want to stain your wood with blood. It looks horrible. It looks gross. And nobody wants your bodily fluids, okay? This isn't a satanic ritual. Keep your saliva, your pee, all that to yourself. Oh, this is a mess. Okay, we're done. Alright, we are back. So I think I'm pretty much done with this guy. You can see I went in and defined this swirly stuff a little bit more. And then I kind of had it, you know, have it unrope a little bit near the bottom so it could blend in. And then kind of went over them and cleaned them up as much as I could. And used an old clean toothbrush. Get out little scraggle hanger-ons that sometimes don't need to be gone in with a knife or anything. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this project unfold. I certainly enjoyed it. This walnut was fun. I think that I'll probably put a light finish on him. He's got like some white areas. I don't know if it's glaring or anything, but they look like they're like the wood's not as solid, or it's a little more like the cuts aren't as clean. It's just because the grain changes. You can see like he has a stripe in the middle that's darker and white, so I'll probably do a satin finish, polyurethane type of deal. But I don't know, but because this walnut will patina naturally, like really nicely with age, so maybe just leave him. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed. Take care, bye.